Hello, this is Brad, or Brad Wild. We are here in Portland, which is Kilo Papa Delta X-ray, and we're going to be taking a flight of about an hour and a half down to Salt Lake City, which is Kilo Sierra Lima Charlie. I was going to use real weather, and there's just no weather. 0 winds at both locations, clear skies. So I've created my own. I'll just give you a quick overview of that. So I've got some cumulus at 5,000, more cumulus at flight level 1800, and then some cirrus at flight level 370, visibility of 15 plus, and I've set the baro at 30.9. We're going to be flying the latest version of the JAR A320. This is 2.6 R2, and we are obviously cold and dark. Just so that you know what I'm looking at and pausing for every once in a while, it is my own checklist, which you can pick up under resources that I have found on the A320 forum at xplane.org, where you can ask me for it. So first things first, we need to get some fuel going. So I'm going to call up our fuel truck here. I've already been to fuelplanner.com, which is a great website, and determined that I need 7,200 kilograms. Now fuelplanner.com gives it to you in pounds, so I just go over to Google and do a conversion. And well, we're not going to need to do any fueling at all, and we can get some ground power going. We should see an available light now. So we click that and get our batteries going. And we can turn on our packs, get a little air going. And before the first officer yells at me, I'll go ahead and set our temperatures. And again, to let people know we're at home, a couple of lights, the beacon and nav lights. We do want to get our APU going, so we'll do the little fire test. And then down to our APU. Let me turn on some lights first. There we go, a little backlighting. We'll start our master switch. Hit the start button, and we'll wait until it says available, and then we can click our APU bleed. While I'm waiting, I'll arm my emergency lights. I know I have to do that. And probably put the seat belt on and no smoking for right now. And you can see that our APU is available. So let's put on our bleed. Turn on a little window heat. The next thing we need to do is get our ADARUs aligned. That takes 7 minutes. So the data button to status and the system button to 1. And then each of these 3 mode switches to nav. And we'll watch for an indication here, a prompt to click our enter button. And then we can see time to navigation 7 minutes. Center pedestal here, and we want our mode switch just to normal. Our switches, engine switches are off. We can turn on some radios. Again, get some backlighting going here. And now we can program our FMGC using the MCDU. So I'm using the latest Navigraph cycle 1605, and we'll start by clicking the init button. Now I did create a company route using explaintools.com, and I'm just curious to know whether or not it's going to recognize it. I've been having issues with it, and I'm not quite sure what the problem is. Well, that one worked fine. So I'll click the Align IRS, put in our cost index, and I use the normative of, whoops, I'm going to need to clear that. Alright, 45. Hold off on our cruise altitude. Let's put in a flight number though. Just American Airlines. There we go. Now it's time to check our fuel panel, and we just simply click R1 and R2. So that is now set, and we can go over to our flight plan and see what we have. Nothing too exciting yet. I don't know how beneficial it is to have a company route if that's all we're going to get. So I'll click our departure airport, and we'll be using 28 left. And the SID we're going to be using is Whammy 4. And now the question of the transition. I've been over to FlightAware and offloaded some waypoints that real flights are using, and it looks like they're transitioning here at India Mike Baker. So just in keeping, go ahead and enter that. Back to our flight plan. We can insert it just to keep things tidy. Now I'm curious how close we get to our next waypoint, which is BYI, and it looks like we're just one short, so I'll put that in manually. So I'll just put in, what did I say, BOI? So now I just need to get rid of our discontinuity. So I just click clear, and if these two are connected or connectable, then you can get rid of the discontinuity. Now we'll finish up our flight plan by going to our arrival airport, and I'm going to come around from the south because I've set my winds from the northwest. So we're going to be using 16 left. I'm sorry, 16 right. You know what? I'm going to take all that back. I said we're headed to the north, so 34 right. Sorry about that. And our star is going to be, again, going back to what FlightAware suggests, and that's skis 4. And I looked at the skis for star, and there is provision for an approach from the south. Now they have Cedar and they have FFU, so we could come around this direction. And again, we're transitioning at BYI. We'll insert and see if we have any discontinuities, and I don't. Now the other thing I need to do is see if the waypoints are accurate. JAR has had problems, especially transitioning to the star. So starting in Portland, we are going to circle around to the south. And you can see our southern route and on into Salt Lake City. So I think we're good to go. Alright, we need to finish up our programming of the FMGC at this point. Our checkpoints are fine. We'll just spool it back to our departure airport. And we'll head on over to the performance screen and put in our V speeds. And then our transition is already at 18,000, and this is our thrust reduction. We'll just click that button, and then for our flaps and stabilizer, I'm going to make it 2.0, and we will be using a flex temp of F44. And now we need to put in our cruise altitude, flight level 320. And if we look at our flight plan, you can see that we have our altitudes in there. So as far as the FMGC goes, we have that programmed, and we can move to engine start. Well, we'll start by doing our fire test before we push back, just to make sure everything is okay before we leave our gate. But now we're ready to call our tow.
Park brake off.
Oops, wrong way. There we go.
Park brake on.
We can send our tow away now. Make sure our parking brake is on. So now we're ready for engine start. So we'll turn on our fuel pumps. Then down to our mode switch, turn it to start, and we'll start with engine number 2.
Starting engine 2.
You can see our temperature spooling up here. While that's doing that, I'm going to just set my baro. It was 30.52. There we go. Alright, we're ready for engine number 1. Second engine.
Starting engine 1.
see the temps coming up. And once our engines are on and stable, we can turn off our APU. Packs remain on because we have engine power. While I'm up here, I'm just going to check to make sure we are aligned, which we are. And engine mode switch, go to normal. I can go ahead and set my speed to 15 over V2. Alright, engines are started. I'm going to set my initial altitude to 5,000 feet. There isn't one listed on the SID, but you're rarely cleared to your filed altitude right off the runway. So I'm going to use 5,000. That's why I do that. Let me go ahead and set some flaps
Flap 1.
to
Flap
5 and arm my speed brake
Spoilers arm.
or spoilers, however you want to refer to them. And we can turn on lights. We really don't need them today, but and we can put our strobe on auto, which will mean that after we take off it will engage the strobes, and when we land it will turn them off. So we've been cleared to the end of our runway, so we'll begin our taxi, and I'll spare you some of that.
Park brake off.
By the way, there is a map that you can use that shows you a map of the airport. If you need it. So I tell you what, I'll meet you at the end of the runway and we'll continue our video from there. So here we are at the end of runway 28 left. Just a few things we need to do before taking off. Auto brake to max. And we're going to set our transponder on. Set this to above and this to TATR. And we'll just check our lights here. Landing lights on. Strobe is auto. We do not need runway turn-off lights now, but I'll go ahead for safety's sake and turn on the nose light. And then our packs can come off for takeoff. And we've been cleared for takeoff. Brake off. Begin our clock. So flaps 2, just double checking. Power is set. Check at 80.
100 knots. 140.
rotate. Gear up. Spoilers disarmed. Packs on. Nose light off. We can begin our navigation.
Autopilot 1, cross-check.
Our lever climb is flashing, so I notch it back to the next indent.
Speed check, flaps 1.
And we're going to up our speed here now that we've cleared any potential terrain issues. Next notch of flaps up.
Speed check, flaps 0.
So our next bit of activity will be at 5,000 feet. So we're just waiting for departure to clear us, which they have, and we're going to go all the way up to flight level 320. So I just press the button, and our speed button, which will take the bug to 250, which is our speed limit. And our turn to the south. Don't need the airports. So the next thing we're watching for is 10,000 feet when the lights come off. So we're coming up on 10,000 feet. You'll see our speed bug increase to in the 340 range. That can be controlled here if you want a little more aggressive climb. We can turn off our landing lights. Airport is back here. So with that takeoff to the northwest, we add a few miles to our route. So our speed bug is at about 338, and we're just beginning our climb to flight level 320, and we're coming up on flight level 180, so we're watching for our barrow here. Start flashing, which it is, and we can just go to standard.
Standard barrow cross-check, passing flight level 176.
And off in the distance we can see Mount Hood. And you can see our top of climb indication here. It'll be interesting to see how well we do in achieving it at that point. Alright, I'll get back to you when we reach our top of climb. Just 16 miles to go, and it looks like we're going to be there right when we should. Coming up on our flight level 320, which is our cruise altitude. So it looks like the two are going to line up nicely. That's usually the case, but every once in a while I overshoot it. So the throttles will start coming back, and we can let people roam around. Got some clouds out the side window here. So now it's just a matter of cruising along at altitude. Scenery is kind of boring, and then there's the pink line caused by my HDR being turned on. Must have something to do with my video card. So back with you when we get closer to our top of descent.